Do we have any new people today? Heather, hi Heather. Have, have you done one of our groups before?
Hi, I've done quite a lot of dream work, but this is my
Oh,
first
that's
group
what
to
I thought.
take part in of this kind.
Okay.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, I couldn't remember if you'd been to the Tarot group before, but I'm glad you're here.
Thanks.
So
Um,
what we're doing for introductions is just our name, where we're from, and a word that comes to mind when we think of temperance. And if you don't know the tarot and or temperance, just a word that comes to mind.
uh-huh. Right, exactly.
So Billy, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I think everybody knows me pretty well. I'm Billie Ortiz. I've been working with dreams for 20 years, over 20 years now. I love dreams and archetypes and symbols and fairy tales and anything that connects with the language of metaphor. And I like this particular rendition of Temperance, which is because I use these cards with Dreamwork all the time. And this one is the Osho Zen Tarot. And I like how they renamed it Integration. And it's all these symbols of bringing together the yin and the yang and what seemingly opposites. So that was a big thing I wanted to talk about today, how those opposites can be the paradox of accepting both and. So the word that comes to mind for me is integration, which is what they called um, this card. That's it.
So I'm Patty, and I'm here in Boulder County. And I love dream work and metaphor, and love showing up and talking about this. I'm happy that we're doing this card today, because it feels like a easier card than some of the other ones we've done. It feels more like, so
Mm.
guardian angel is what comes to mind for me, and I'll explain
Oh,
why
that's
later.
good.
It came up in a couple of the things I was reading, so
Yeah,
could use a guardian angel today. So,
yeah,
yeah.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So Elizabeth is next on my screen here.
Okay, hi, hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I used to be in Billie's dream work group for a long, long time, and then I moved first to Chicago and now to Herndon, Virginia, near Dulles Airport. And I've done dream work and tarot for a good 20, 30 years off and on myself. And what comes to mind with temperance? I hate to say it, I'm not that involved on that. I'm more like frustration and treading water comes to mind when I
Oh,
think of
okay.
temperance. Not my favorite thing.
All right. Frustration and treading water.
Elizabeth. Becky? Becky,
My name is Becky Cleland. I live in North Carolina. I'm a retired librarian and I do a lot of dream work now. And I like to join these groups. It's fun to see everybody and get to know what they think and talk about these interesting things.
Glad
Oh,
you've
and
been.
what I think of when I think of temperance, I think of trying to balance my life. Not too much of this or too much of that, but just right in all aspects.
Excellent. Yeah.
Judy? Judy's next.
Oh, me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm Judy and Ward, and I live in Spokane, Washington. I'm a hypnotherapist and have a hypnotherapy school where I teach others how to do it. And I love dream work and I love the tarot.
Mm.
So when I think of temperance, I think of like balancing between two extremes
Yeah. Yeah.
or intuitive balance.
Mhm. Very nice.
Judy. Pat? Pat McNeil?
I'm Pat McNeil and I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I've been doing dream work for quite a while, a number of years. And let's see, this morning I had a dream about my mother, and she was sitting at a window looking out in the dark night. And I was in my childhood home, and it was, she said to me, I'm getting used to this.
Oh.
And, I said that I am too. And I've been going to a lot of funerals lately. And anyway, so to me, it's like a cycle. Temperance is kind of a cyclical, a balancing of the ups and the downs and the movements back and forth. And I was grateful for her input to me today. And anyway, thank you for listening.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I Billy, you're probably like me. We're like, whoa, we want to work that dream.
Yeah, it's like as soon as there's a dream mentioned, it's like, oh yeah, the conveyor belt starts, with all the images in my head.
I know. Thanks for sharing, Pat.
Oh,
Thanks
you're
for
welcome.
being here. It's always so good to see you. I knew Pat back when I lived in Virginia, and she was very, very, and still is, very special friend. Just now we're friends on Zoom. We're far away for now. So thanks for joining us.
Well, my mother is, thank you, Patti. Just a heads up, my mother has died about 18 years ago. And so it was really special that she came, so I thought I'd share that with you. But I say now out loud that my mother agrees with me a lot more often now that she's dead than she ever did when she died.
I can relate to that. That's really good.
Maybe I'm coming into some balance myself.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nada?
Okay, I'm from Detroit. My name's Nada, and I'm just discovered the dream group with Billie this year, and the method and the world of metaphor, and I'm really enjoying all the people and learning lots of things, new way of thinking. And when I think of temperance, well, since I'm studying Buddhism the last couple of years too, I think of the middle way. So the middle between higher and lower, inner and outer, and as other people have mentioned, extremes, and just the middle way.
Yeah, perfect. That's nice. Thank you.
Trisha?
Hey everyone.
Hi, Trisha.
Hey, Trisha.
For those who don't know me, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. And I just enjoy hanging out and learning more. It kind of forces me to focus on one thing because I have so much in my head. So I really enjoy meeting with everyone each month. So anyway, I'm with most of you. I think of balance or a journey of balance because it's kind of a fluid thing. So, we're always just trying to maintain that balance, a healthy balance, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Excellent. That's very good.
Thank you, Trisha. Heather?
Hi. Just making sure I was unmuted and then muted and then unmuted because I have 2 dogs that can be kind of loud sometimes. So I'm Heather. I live here in Boulder. I know both Patti and Billie and have been fortunate to have been able to participate in some parts of Billie's retreats, which I've loved, and some of the dream groups. I'm pretty passionate about mental health and in general, and being as emotionally intelligent as I can and helping those around me to be that way too. And up until the dream work I've started about almost 7 years ago, I was more focused on talk therapy and support and things like that. And now I'm really loving learning more about self-hypnosis and dream work and anything under the umbrella of the subconscious. I find absolutely fascinating. So I'm really glad to be here. I since I'm almost last here, I'm going to have to repeat what some of you said. It's just Temperance card makes me think about the balance that
Mm.
I and others are seeking. But I'll add a little extra to that. I've been trying lately to sort of not just be more emotionally balanced, but more balanced sort of in my body physically, with also feeding my soul with things like this. So.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bo?
Hi, Bo. There
I'm
you
muted. I'm muted. Oh, hi all. My name is Bill, and I live in Boulder. And what I think, I'm putting my feelings to it. I get perspective.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, very good. So Patti, do you have a meditation for us today? So we can maybe get started here with the bowl and then give you a chance to kind of bring us in.
Okay.
So I'll do this. Hopefully we can get it to where everybody can hear it.
So as we come together today, let's just start with taking a deep breath in. And on the exhale, release any tension you might be holding from the morning or the week and just let it go. Take a few deep breaths in, continuing to release tension. If there's any place in your body that feels extra tight, breathe some extra love in there and let it go. And as you feel your body relax, moving into this place of archetype, place between the worlds, just imagine for a minute what Temperance might say if Temperance could speak. Possibly, Temperance would say, I am with you permanently. Not a single second passes that I'm not with you, because my true essence is to be a guardian. You can't imagine the number of dangers and illnesses from which I save you. I am there watching over you. When you are dreaming, I am watching over your dreams. I drive the nightmares away. I love you infinitely. Put your trust in me, because when you stop believing in me, I become smaller and smaller and then invisible. I lose some of my power. But once you start seeing me again, I act more and more effectively, both inside you and in the outside world. Just like a mother will give her child to a trustworthy individual to watch, you can entrust yourself to me like a child. I will protect you. How many among you have suddenly become aware of my existence when I pulled you back just as a car was about to run you down? Or when I dissuaded you from going onto an airplane that would later explode in flight? Or when I stopped your steps mere inches from the abyss? I am balance and prosperity. I'm the inner voice that screams, look out, and lets you avoid making that fatal error, having the accident, making the irreversible gesture. I am on a state of constant alert on your behalf. I'm the kindness of the universe. I communicate with nature and with all the entities governing the world ensuring their favor towards you. So as we take that in, what Temperance might say, we move into the space together of sharing archetypes and the energy of temperance. So when you're ready, just open your eyes and come back into the Zoom room.
Thank you, Patti. That was great. Yeah, that was when I was preparing the PDF from our book that we've been using through all of this journey. That's what he calls it. He calls it the soul guide. You know, so it's like you said, guardian angel. So I'm thinking, like, as he says, like, I'm the one who gets you out of the way of the speeding car, and I'm the one who tells you not, you know, gives you that inner voice. So that's really great. That makes me
My inner child deck, and it is literally the guardian angel.
Oh.
I kept seeing that over and over in what I read in this book, and then also about that. So, and then I think it's so sweet that Pat mentioned her dream about her mother. It was almost kind of that image of
Yeah.
my guardian angel is here with me.
Yeah.
And this
So you go ahead.
This is the card from that deck, the Marseille deck, the book that I read from.
Yeah, and like the theme of the water pouring between the two is on many of the images.
Yeah,
so
and it's
the
also
blending.
angel.
Right. Right.
But yeah, it felt good to me to do this card today, Billie, after the tower and all the heavy hermit. Well, the hermit, it's not that heavy, but it's lonely.
And the hangman and all that stuff. Yeah.
Like,
And
I had a guardian angel today. That's nice.
That's great. So did you have something you wanted to share, Elizabeth? I saw you holding your book up.
Well, I just thought we should also do the devil at some point.
Yeah. Well, and when I do the screen share, I'll show you how he relates to the series of going from hangman to death to temperance to the devil and how that connects. So because I mean that's what, you know, we have to realize it's a sequence. You know, we have to always realize, you know, we're pulling out these one cards, but it's all related to where it lines up in the sequence. So anybody else have a card they want to share or something they want to show?
Oh, did you draw that, Becky?
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's a yin yang cats. Oh, I love it.
Their little tails swirling around.
Very nice. Very nice.
Oh, and if you pull back from it, it looks like a cat too.
Yeah, it's two cats. Oh, I see. It's just, I see. It just looks like the eyes of the cat. That's right.
And the nose and stuff. So it's like a double. That's so cool.
It is.
Yeah, it is like an optical illusion. So did you create that, Becky? We can't hear you because you're muted.
No, I found it on the web and loved it, so I copied it for me.
Excellent. That's really, really good. Yeah, it's like a yin yang, but like Tricia said, if you hold it further back, it looks like just the face of a cat too. So they've put it together really well. So, I mean, if you look at it from farther away. Anybody else have any cards that they want to share or anything they want to read? I'm actually going to read the description of integration because it's a lot of what we have been talking about today. And all the balance and the blending and the things, not, you know, the balance between the extremes. So here we go. I love, and this is what I used in the description on Facebook too, and I just love this. The image of integration is the unio mystica, the fusion of opposites. This is the time of communication between the previously experienced dualities of life. Rather than night opposing day, dark suppressing light, they work together to create a unified whole, turning endlessly one into the other, each containing in its deepest core the seed of the opposite. The eagle and the swan are both beings of flight and majesty. The eagle is the embodiment of power and aloneness. The swan is the embodiment of space and purity, gently floating and diving upon and within the element of the emotions, entirely content and complete within her perfection and beauty. We are the union of eagle and swan, male and female, fire and water, life and death. The card of integration is the symbol of self-creation, new life, and mystical union, otherwise known as alchemy. And that's what a lot of people who've looked at interpreting the cards, is that what's happening with the two cups? Is there some type of alchemical process that's taking place? And I think, yeah, because metaphorically, that's how we we have to take all the parts of ourselves and integrate them. And that's why dreams are so valuable. Often dreamers, when they dream of things in twos and in pairs, that's where we get a place where we can say, let's look at I'm going to be able to now see it, because it first comes in as twos. And then once I see it as a two, then I can realize, oh, it's really one, but I've always split it apart as a duality. So that's because we tend to do that. It's like we go, oh, it's night or day. It's not, it's boy or girl. It's hot or cold. And actually they're one and the same, because anything that's hot is going to soon turn cold, and day and night, as we know, blend together. So they're really one and the same, and male and female as well. We all have an inner masculine. All of us women have an inner masculine, and all men have an inner feminine. So there's this idea of, if I dream of things in pairs and in twos, particularly things that are twinned, that's the invitation that something is bubbling up from the unconscious for me to pay attention. It's coming my way in order to be integrated. So that's really important when we dream of, and when I first got into dream work, I remember this, it drove me crazy. I used to dream about being like in my grandmother's kitchen, and I didn't particularly like my grandmother. She was pretty scary, but I would dream of being back in Granny's house, and there'd be two stoves and two refrigerators and two sinks, and it made me crazy. And I was like, what is going on? And my dream teacher, Dr. Ron, would say, well, he says, you're really cooking. And then he was talking about how there was all this inner alchemical process that was going on because I got so deeply into the dream work. So the dreams showed that vision to me of the twos, so that I could start integrating everything instead of splitting it apart. Really important.
From dream to waking.
Yes, because in the dreams everything showed up in twos frequently, just all the time, and like two stoves like right next to each other, two refrigerators right next to each other, that kind of thing. And I couldn't get it for the longest time. And then he coached me through the whole thing and explained that process to me. And the idea that when something comes up from the unconscious, it usually comes in as twos. So that's my piece about that. So are you guys ready for the screen share, or does anyone have anything else they want to talk about right now? Okay, let's do the screen share because there's some really good images here. Hello, do the share. Okay. Let's open this up. Here we go. So as you can see, as we mentioned before, it's as Patti was pointing out, quite often is the images of an angel, and you can see that the foot's in the water and there's the other foot's on land. So there we go, with touching in with the unconscious, but also staying with the conscious realm, and then being able to blend the two seemingly opposites together. So that's in my version, that's a lot to do with what's happening with the cups. So, and one of the things he says is that he says, even though this is a very light colored, bright card, it's still a card of the underworld, because the lilies in the back are a hint at that, because they come from the underworld. That's why so often lilies are at funerals and stuff. There's an archetypal connection. Also with Easter, lilies are big at Easter to remind us of that death and rebirth. So the guide of souls, that's what we were talking about before. It's like this inner voice, and that he even calls it Vox D, the God's voice that's inside of us, and how we can try to let go of the ego in order to be able to hear that inner voice more often. And so since this whole book that we're using as the study guide for these groups, he juxtaposes the hero's journey with the journey of the fool in the tarot. So and I will send everybody, as I always do, I'll send this PDF afterwards so you can all read this yourself. And there's some really interesting things that he goes into about the duality of time, and how time changes for us from when we're very small, and how time seems to get shorter and shorter and shorter as we get older, and how to look at time more as a quality rather than a quantity. What am I doing with my time, rather than feeling like I'm running out of time. So this is the sequence that we were talking about before, which goes 12 hangman, 13 death, 14 temperance, and 15 devil. So in other words, he also compares it with the Christianity process of Christ, and he's crucified as the hangman, and then the death that happens to this world, and then temperance is balancing what needs to be balanced in order for the descent and rebirth. So this is he says the sequence of the Christian process of faith is reflected in the tarot from the 12 to the 15. So I think that's really powerful too. And so then he continues to he always compares the cards very well. So he quotes Jung all the time, which I love. You know, so it's a very Jungian approach. And this really fascinated me. Go ahead.
Can you go back to why the devil explain the devil in the sequence of the Christian thing with the death?
The way he explains it is that because after the death, he had to go to the underworld, and before the resurrection.
Oh, okay. So temperance is when he ascended, and devil is the underworld.
Right. That's when that's the way he's explaining it. So then this really fascinating. I didn't know this story, but apparently Jung had a heart attack at some point in his life, and he must have had some type of near-death experience, because this is a quote. He says, "I was free, completely free and whole, as I had never felt before. It was a silent, invisible festival, and an incomparable, indescribable feeling of eternal bliss imbued it. Never had I believed that such a feeling lay within the range of human experience, since from the outside, and as long as we are on the outside of death, this is the greatest cruelty. But as soon as you stand within it, you experience such a strong feeling of wholeness and peace and fulfillment that you no longer want to return." So I didn't know that story at all. I didn't know that Jung had a heart attack and actually had a near-death experience. Oh my God. So that's kind of what he's getting into with when Hayo Bansef, the author of the book, he discusses so much about time for that reason. So here we are again with another sequence to explain it to us about. So the hopelessness is the crisis that's represented by the hangman, which we did a couple months ago. Very important card in the journey of the fool, for us to be able to release and sacrifice in order to continue. Failure and letting go of the ego and the death card, and then the encounter with self in temperance. So finding, and again, it's about dropping the ego way of looking at things and finding that place where I can embrace the paradox. And he mentions the transcendental function, which is another Jungian concept of like, we go beyond our, there's our four functions of thinking, feeling, intuition, and sensation. And somewhere in there, there's a transcendent function that combines all of those and allows us to ascend from there. So I found that fascinating too. So there's something about bringing together wholeness with this particular card in the journey of the Fool. So then this is all that's why I'm going to send this all to you, because it's really, I reread it all today and I was like, man, this guy he touches in on so many different things. He touches in on mythology, he touches in on Jungian psychology, he touches in on fairy tales, he touches in on the hero's journey and all the metaphors that go along with that. So he blends a lot of things together. So here we go with another sequence that's a little more extended. The ego trap, the hangman, overcoming the ego, death, surrendering to the higher guidance, which is temperance, as we've been saying, our inner voice, our guardian angel, the potential of the depths, the devil, busting the old framework. There we go, the tower, another card that we did. We've been doing a lot of underworld cards, as you said, Patti. I don't think we did this consciously, but somehow we pulled a lot of cards that are from the relating to the underworld. So the tower, as we discussed before, was bursting the old framework and the old paradigms. And then of course, right after the tower is the star. So new hope and new horizons. So we have to sort of go through all of this to get to the release and the place where we can bring it all together. Okay, so then of course he talks a lot about Dante's Inferno, explains a lot of myths and goes deeply into more symbolism with that. So these are things you can read on your own later. I'm zooming through here because you're going to get this handout later. And then he's got another sequence. So renunciation and abstinence, death, and the proper mixture, temperance, excess, and greed, and dependence, the devil. And so one of the things that he was talking about in the chapter is, it's like when you get a chocolate bar and there's a part of you that can just not eat any chocolate at all and decide, okay, I'm just going to abstain from chocolate today. And then there's this other part of us represented by the devil that just ends up eating the whole thing. And then, but the idea of temperance is to take like that little square and eat just the little square. And so how do we do that? Because we have to live between those extremes. And that's a lot of what people discuss today about the middle way and balance and the fluidity. How do I allow myself to experience both without going too far either way, where they're just, becoming really pious and sanctimonious, or, and not so, and the other side would be just become wild and crazy and out there. But there's somewhere in between where we can still enjoy things without going too far. So I thought that was interesting. So here he goes with, I really enjoyed working with this book with these groups because it helps me to understand the tarot more as a whole archetypal blueprint. And I always knew it was, but it was just to actually have the associations mapped out really helped me to understand it better. So he talks about, okay, so the Hierophant as the educator and guide in the outer world, and the soul guide in the inner space would be Temperance. So those kind of go together. And then through the night, Temperance, and let's see, inner space, and through the night, Temperance, the proper portion, Temperance, and the excess is the devil. So these connections with the numbers and how they all relate. It's just way more complicated and intricate than I ever, even though I understood that it was intricate and deep. It's just like I cannot you can't exhaust it. It's like dream work. It's for me, this is what I get excited about. Is there's no real end to the study of tarot. You can just continue to go with it for the rest of your life. So he always ends every chapter with sort of a sum up of every card. So the archetype is the soul guide. The task is trusting a higher guidance, finding the right mixture. The goal is unerring inner creativity, finding the center and wholeness. Risk is following false inspiration, mediocrity, and the feeling in life being carried by a great power, harmony, impenetrable, and health. No, I'm not pronouncing that right. Imperturbably. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Imperturbability.
Like if I'm okay, like I can't. All right, I don't understand.
It can't be perturbed. No ability to perturb me.
I cannot be perturbed. All right. So anyway, that's that. So as I said, I'll be sending that out to all of you later, so you can have a chance to look at it yourself.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily about temperance, but I was wondering what your views and thoughts are on reading upside down cards or something. Some people don't read upside down cards at all. Some people follow them and do the reverse.
Yeah, I do not read the reverse. I do not do that. Because the how I was taught was if there was another card that was going to show up, it would have showed up. You know, but a lot of people are do that where they depending on how you're viewing it, how you're viewing the layout. If it shows in reverse, yeah, some people really take great importance to that. For instance, if tower was upside down, maybe it means that something has already cracked open and this is the other side of it. I don't know, but I personally don't read reversed.
A reader that I knew in Denver, often if it's reversed, it might mean a delay in the manifestation of that card.
Like that.
Or each card is kind of a continuum. You know, it could be pride or hubris. So if it's reversed, you might be more on that end of the continuum than on that side.
Right.
So how it melds with others, it's not necessarily negative. So I often interpret it as a delay.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
That's a good point though, because a lot of people take that. A lot of readers do read reversed. I'm just like, you know, another card would have showed up if it wanted to be there. That's my version of it.
My take on that is that if you read a card, whatever you're coming up with, that can either be negative or positive, whether it's upright or reversed.
Yes.
So you know, yeah.
So, like the shadow aspects of the card would be showing up more with the reverse. I don't like to read reversed either, and that was just really my own like laziness, I thought. So it's interesting. I'm like, oh, I don't. Was it upset? Which way? It's just the card.
It's already hard enough for me to figure out what it is. I know. It's like, okay, I don't want to get into the mirror image, but yeah, I think you're right, Patti. And Judy also is to deal with what aspects are, because everything is made up of good and bad.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing. I mean, that's what temperance. That's what we're concentrating on right now. Is that we really can't lop off one or the other. That's why the yin yang is such a wonderful symbol, because it always has that little seed of the reverse, you know, the little white seed in the black and the little black seed in the white to remind us that we can't divide it so evenly. And I think that's a really important thing to learn about ourselves too, to not be so hard on ourselves and, you know, try to embrace it all.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting, Billie, that that Trisha's asking the question with the temperance card. That connection you just made, that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and when I do readings for people, which isn't all that frequently, but I do try to explain that there's this, like death is a perfect example. When that card comes up, people always freak out, and it's like, wait a minute, death is actually can be very positive, of letting go of things, something in my life needs to die in order for me to be able to move forward, which we dealt with in the dream group just last Thursday. Remember, I do you mind if can I use your dream as an example, Judy? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
because at one point there's all these gunmen that come in, and my life is threatened. But then the scene shifts then, and I go to the showroom with all the salesmen, and there's the lion that can actually kill me. And the lion jumps up on my back, right? As a dreamer, and I'm walking around trying not to move too much because this lion is gonna maybe he could just rip me apart. And that was one of my projections on the dream, was that there were two opportunities in the dream that I could have died as the dreamer, and I have to look at it as a good thing in the dream world, because it's inviting me to extreme spiritual growth and change. So that's that. I mean, that just popped to mind because it was just so fresh from just the other day. But I mean, it's our dreams will do that, where they'll put us in situations that seem like, oh wow, this is the worst thing that could happen, but really maybe it's the best thing that could happen. It's hard to see it at first, because if I look at it literally.
Well, and can't we see that a lot with what's going on with the pandemic? I mean, I think we talked before about the Corona coaster, ups and downs people are having. And I know I certainly have been up and down and all over the place. And I know there's something that we're getting out of this. And at the same time, it's so hard. So I don't.
Yeah. I think you're right, because what comes to mind for me is gestation. Because, it's like all of us who've had children, you're like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant. Oh, this is great, wonderful. And then by the time you're like midway through, you're like, man, this really sucks. My ankles are swollen and I got heartburn all the time. I have to run to the bathroom every 5 minutes. It's like, so there's that joy of, and then of course the actual pain of childbirth. We can't ignore that. But there's always that gift at the end. So whatever we're going through right now, as collectively, if it were, my version of it is to look at it as a gestation. And we're what are we? We're in the 5th month here.
Yeah, I counted yesterday and I went, oh my gosh, 5 months, and I think we've got a lot more months to go. So.
Oh, definitely. I know the last time I saw you in person was March at your office, right around St. Patrick's Day. It's hard to believe. Yeah.
Everything shut down, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we weren't really thinking of infection that much but I do remember bringing a whole lot of spoons, because I thought if they're going to have dips and stuff, I don't want anyone double dipping, Yeah.
That's right. We didn't want double dipping, and we thought it was going to be like a bad flu thing, and it was all going to be over. So.
Yeah, like it was just going to be over in a few weeks or something. It didn't seem as though it was going to happen. We were getting the reports from the rest of the world, but I was still in denial about that.
So how does anybody want to speak to how the idea of the temperance and the pieces that we've talked about are showing up in the pandemic for you right now? How does it feel relevant?
Yeah.
Well, I can throw something in here. I've been, as you guys know, I use the Spirit of the Herbs tarot deck. And this card, Temperance, is I don't know if you can see that. She has some echinacea.
Yeah, I was going to say that looked like echinacea.
It is. And the spiritual properties kind of tie into what's going on. The spiritual properties on a spiritual level, echinacea assists in adjusting to changes and in harmonizing polarities. Moreover, the cone top of echinacea creates a spiraling vision like a mandala. This is indicative to the need to recognize the inner steadiness and guidance that is always there for you, even in the midst of the most disagreeable changes, and turbulence. Echinacea builds an inner protection against harmful outside influences so that one can meet life with inner strength and steadfastness. I thought it kind of really ties in because we've got all this going on.
Yeah.
And we're all, trying to stay, calm and well balanced, and it seems to, bring the archangel type of, protection against what's going on.
Yeah, very good. And echinacea is all about immunity and building immunity. So that's really interesting. Huh.
I've always liked the word steadfast. I heard it when I think I was still in Virginia, and been through custody battles and divorces and moves and lots of kind of life challenges. And that word, to me, there's something about it. Maybe it's because it's got steady in it. It's like, it's not just like a warrior power. It's a steady strongness, steadfastness. I don't know. I love that word. So that really makes sense to me with this card.
Yeah.
Steadfast.
I like that.
Be steadfast through these times for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like you're all keeping busy with all your classes and stuff that you're doing, though. And that's being steadfast and continuing your passions. That's good.
Yeah.
And taking naps.
Which
go to sleep.
Drinking wine.
That too. Go ahead, Nada.
Is the temperance card resonating, do you think, in the climate outside? I mean, like political climate, the energy, the world.
Oh yeah.
We could use some of that.
I know. It seems to me more crazy, but maybe it is.
Yeah.
What I was thinking, the moving between extremes, and we have such extremes right now, the pandemic forcing us from outside to inside, and we have the pandemic where it's going to disappear anytime now, and wait a minute, we're in this for the long haul. Trump, Biden, black, white, this is all, from, bringing together opposites. I think one of the lessons maybe to bring together opposites and then synthesize them, and take this wide variety of influences and mixing them all together and getting a balanced environment. One of the things, temperance is one of the 4 virtues.
That's right. And that's what Baho he talks about that in the book. That bio. Why don't I can never remember that. Like down on the bio. Okay. I get it. I always pronounce it wrong. But so it's like down on the bio, like that kind of bio. That's how I can remember it. I'll remember it that much better that way. Anyway, that just to your point, Judy, when Barack Obama got elected president, I had a dream retreat planned. Oh, I'll never forget this. Had the dream retreat planned in early November. It was like few days after the election, and I can't tell you how many people before that had canceled, because 2008 was the time when everything just tanked. So people were like, I can't make it because I just looked at my 401k and I don't have any money, all these things. So this is related to tarot also. So I pulled an Osho card because I didn't know what to do. I was under contract and I had to pay no matter whether we were there or not. And I pulled the card trust, and I went to it's this in this deck. It's this woman flying in the air with nothing around. It's like, trust and just let go of everything. So I actually copied that card and made little versions of it for everybody to carry with them, because I said, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this card. And so actually, Laura showed me she still had hers in the wallet. This was from 2008 until now. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that Barack Obama became a huge dream symbol throughout 2008, 2009. It was just, no matter what your politics were, he came to everybody in the dreams. And my version of that was because he was a blend of black and white, and he has such a presence and such a steadfastness. That's Patty's favorite word. You know, he's very steadfast and he's really eloquent. And there was this immediate connection. People's unconscious just connected to. I cannot tell you how many Barack Obama dreams I worked throughout those first couple of years. So now people often dream about Trump, and they're always like, oh no, I got this dream about Trump. I have to face my inner Trump. And it's one of those things of like extremes again. Trump takes it to such an extreme that there's no way that you can ignore his histrionics, you know, his craziness. So there's an article that Jeremy Taylor wrote right before his death, really close before he died, about why Trump shows up as a character in our dreams so frequently. And his theory was about unfettered creativity. In other words, because Trump makes it up as he goes along. You know, in the middle of a press conference, and in the middle of a very important meeting, he just makes it up, and he's made himself up too. So there's some symbol there of, if I dream about Trump, is it because I have not connected with that part of my creativity, that's really deeply in the shadow, and it's like, how do I reinvent myself? So anyway, so between Barack and Trump, there's been some really interesting dreams over the last few years. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, well, Barack in particular, because, and I think Kamala is going to be the same.
I do too.
I think we're going to have a lot of people are going to start dreaming about her too. She's got that kind of energy again of blending, and she's fierce, but she's also very kind, and she's another, you know, mixed race of different energies, you know. So it's like there's this, it's very hopeful in my version of it all. So
in my version too.
Speaking of the blending,
right, balancing.
Yeah, let's blend, you know. So because I think she's a good example of a blend of masculine and feminine too.
Right.
Me. Yeah. So
I like her passion too. She's, you know, not bland. She's articulate, educated, achieved.
She used to be she was a prosecutor in San Francisco. I mean, my God, think of how intense that is. And grew up in Berkeley. I mean, so she had to, I mean, Oakland and Berkeley area. So she has to really hold her own. I mean, if you're living on, you know, that's where a lot of the social unjust change is, a lot of social injustices changed through many of the you know, protests and things that have gone on through that area. So I think there's something really hopeful with that. I was so glad that he chose her.
Me too.
I would have voted for her for president if she was. Well, this is the next best thing. Anybody else? I would have voted
for bologna.
For who?
A slice of bologna.
I see what I thought you should talk about bologna. I don't know what bologna is. A slice of bologna. I vote for my dog. Yeah, my dog can run the country better. She's got more energy.
She's great. Yeah.
And more compassion.
I guess I wanted to kind of speak to, we're saying, how has temperance shown up in this pandemic? And I'm going to stand by my treading water imagery, because to me, temperance was not a card that I've ever been drawn to at all. It always seemed like we're just sitting there, pouring the water, treading water until something else happens.
Yeah.
But I think that feeling is quite quite real for many people in the pandemic. Sort
Yeah.
of hanging in there, treading water, trying not to go off the deep end one way
Yeah.
or the other, and just trying to make it through till something finally shifts it or changes it and breaks that spell, rather than integrating, but rather just sort of hanging in there and holding it. So
Yeah.
this is actually really interesting to see the different sides of it, because for me, temperance was always like kind of boring.
I agree. It's funny you said that, Elizabeth. I'm the same way. I'm like, I almost like it's just the card just doesn't do anything for me. But today, like I said, it felt good because it felt easier and lighter. And then the next one, I guess it's the easier and lighter until the devil, you know, in the underworld, you know. So it's
Yeah.
almost like this. We got you, and now we're
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Well, and if we're talking about the opposites, you know, if temperance is sort of keeping within a range, the devil is going off the deep end on one side, and then the star of hope would be the other opposite. So
Right.
it's kind of setting us up before we go into the shadow and out of the shadow.
Right.
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. If you, like you said, if you look at it as a whole path. Go ahead, Nana. You had.
Well, I was, what resonated with me is what you said is it doesn't feel like equanimity right now. It feels like stuck treading water, like stuck between, oh my God, it could go this way or it could go this way, you know, and we can't relax yet. I'm almost like I can't exhale for a while. It's scary for me. It's a scary moment. Yeah.
We have a couple of hands up. We have Bo and Becky. So Bo, go ahead.
Hi. When I was speaking of perspective, I had a direct experience of that this week, and it's funny that the temperance card came up, but I was thumbing through this little book, and it said to it that it all these typify the destruction of two elements at the birth of a third. The inscription on the rainbow, on the rainbow is alchemy, is rainbow mandate. You know, it's like you're sitting there and you're going, I'm trying to balance, I'm trying to shift, I'm trying to see it this way, I'm trying to see it this way, and all of a sudden you just let go and it goes into a third, and it's like you were looking straight at everything that was happening both in your personal life and on a global or maybe universal, we don't know that for sure, way, and all of a sudden you just turned your head and looking at it completely a different way, and you saw everything differently. The same things were happening, but you experienced them and saw them differently. So the blending of two to produce a third. And it's funny you should mention alchemy at that point.
Yeah.
So also, my friend Jessie sent me a text while we were there, and I always answer Jessie, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. But she said that the, wait for it, the CIA is releasing, it's declassifying all the information it has, wait for it, on transcendental meditation, chakras and energy, centers in the body, astral travel, the ability to manifest parallel universe, stargates, and portals.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's this whole, I'll try and get it, I'll get it to you, Billie, and you know how to get it to the rest.
Okay, sure.
I've not read it, but I thought that was rather fun, didn't you?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, thank you. Becky, you had something?
Yes. I was thinking about the things that change, you know, one thing changing to another or balancing or so forth. And I have seen so many women come into political power and replacing all the men. And, you know, patriarchy has been going on now for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yes,
I
that's
think that the women are beginning to regain their footing. And I think it's going to change over to a matriarchy eventually. And that will balance things out a little bit.
Yeah. That's hallelujah.
Hopeful. It reminds me of I heard a woman on Black Lives Matter, she goes, just be thankful. We just want equality and not revenge.
Really?
That's right. That's right. Very true. Yeah, there's some, Becky, there's a photograph, you might have seen this passed around on Facebook, where it shows all the countries that have done the best with the pandemic, and they're all the countries that have feminine leaders, and then all the countries that have done terribly with it, and they show the pictures of like Putin and Trump and all these stupid old white guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that? What did you say, Nada? I didn't hear.
Bolsonaro, Brazil.
Yeah. Oh, right. Right. Yeah. So it's like, but like in New Zealand, I mean, they squashed it very quickly. I mean, because they worked together, and again, that it's a woman that's in charge, you know. So it's like there's a sense of taking the lead. Pat, were you trying to say something?
You're on mute.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. There you go.
I'm going to try anyway. I really appreciated a couple of parts and all of it. But talk about the timing. Timing for me has changed a lot. And this pandemic has given me more time to look at things. And the other piece, the treading water. You know, I feel safest when I'm treading water. When I learned how to tread water when I learned how to tread water in the pool, I felt then I could move one way or the other, but as long as I knew how to tread, I could tread water forever.
There you go.
I had to learn how to move in the pool. But I felt much more confident because I was treading water. And I think it was Nada used the words treading water. I don't remember. Somebody did. I really appreciated that image. But the other piece is while I've been treading water within this pandemic, I have had to move from being in a physical group, recognizing technology as a force for community. And I'm telling you, it's awesome. The movement that I've made, just learning who I am. I'm a Gemini, for one thing, so Temperance speaks to me. The movement from always having to go to a meeting so I could be with people, or because I like being with people, or go to something because I'm going to be with people, to recognizing that there can be deep exchanges over technology instead of technology actually making us all much more in boxes or not connected.
Right.
Really has been an enormous opening and surprise. And then the next part, when you talk about the women, well, my mother and I at the same window is really saying there's a movement here, because I always looked to my father for guidance. And so to have my mother guiding me through these different areas spoke to me today. Thank you.
Wow, that's so, thank you so much. It's been, I understand, I know a number of extroverts, and they certainly have had difficulties, even more so than the rest of us, of being face to face with a group of people. And yeah, we're blessed that we have this technology. I don't know what we would have, I mean, we'd all be connecting on the telephone if we didn't have anything like Zoom, which can be done, but it's so different. It's to be able to see each other's face to face. So thank you for all of that, Pat. Thank you.
I have another one. I'm an introvert. I've been a natural introvert all my life, and this is really the first group I've been able to speak with others in. And so I guess I'm changing too. I like this change.
Yeah, I know. Well, DreamWork tends to, well, this isn't DreamWork, but this is I'm a cousin to DreamWork. That this delving into the metaphors seems to bring out a lot of us introverts to share and be connected. I mean, that's why I've loved this work as long as I have. I can certainly be alone for long periods of time and be really happy about it, but I tend to have to be, I've been called to this through the DreamWork, and so here I am. There's a closet somewhere that has my claw nails when they pulled me out by my ankles. I got pulled out by the dream world. So yeah, all of our different. So that's another thing that I think is one of our extremes that are probably blending now. All of us who are introverted and are enjoying the introversion in this lockdown, but it's like, okay, this is probably enough, I really want to go out and hang out with, have a small gathering of friends at least,
I think these introverts, these people who are introverts usually think more deeply of deeper subjects. And it seems the whole culture seems to have been just superficial and little, shallow chats and buy this and but now, especially with the pandemic, we are thinking a little harder and deeper, I think, and this is coming out more. So the introverts are coming forth because they have thought about this already, or this is certainly their point of view.
I agree.
Yeah. We've just hated those thoughts. Now it's time. Is everybody else feeling the same thing? Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that, Becky. That means a lot, because this is what it's all about. Providing a place for people to feel safe, connecting and discussing things that they don't normally have a place to discuss. That's one of the things that's another thing. I keep thinking about Dr. Ron today. Dr. Ron, my first dream teacher, he said, "Billie, I can tell you're getting really deeply into this work." He says, "I just need to tell you right now, it's going to change every relationship in your life." And I was like, what? And of course I'm like, I'm like all just into it. Like, I'm just like, and he could not have been more right, because there were a number of friends that I had that there were 20 plus, years relationships, and all of those relationships slowly dropped away because they weren't interested in what I was interested in, and I was going so deeply into the work and deeply into the underworld. I have to add too. That scares a lot of people. They're not ready. So if people aren't ready to look at some of their inner demons and some of their inner conflicts, angels too, then they weren't interested in. The relationships changed, and he was right. And every other relationship too. So that's something to think about for all of us.
And with the Temperance card, it can reflect, what am I trying to say? A period of self-evaluation, okay, and examining what our priorities are, that maybe we weren't. You're so busy, in the outside, and so this time we're forced to. We're forced to be inside. We don't have all those busy little things happening. So there's that self-reflection going on, and it's a time when you may begin. I think the Temperance is you know, like that balance between your inner and your outer self, and that searching for a higher meaning or purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And yeah, and then we're being faced with extremes. This is like spiritual versus, I would usually say spiritual, and this is the water, you know, the water going from cup to cup.
Yeah.
We've got or 1 foot on land, 1 foot in the water, either one
Yeah.
from spiritual or material, conscious, unconscious, and
Right.
yeah, it's just and that unconscious is, the quieter you are, the less that you're doing, the more you're accessing that unconscious, your subconscious. And so when you're accessing your subconscious, then these things start coming up, different things than you're used to thinking about or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, being presented with.
Or avoiding.
That's it.
Right. Yes.
Avoiding.
Yes. Yeah.
That's an important piece. Yeah, because the more we slow down, the more we have to look at those voices
Right.
and listen.
Right.
So, by the way, how's your bee sing? Did the onion help?
Yeah, it worked. I don't know which one worked, but what I did immediately, I didn't even know. I have a bunch of essential oils, and I can't remember what some of them are. I have recipes, and I couldn't find the one for bee sting, so I just grabbed the frankincense and poured it on it. And then I went and got that onion and put it on it. I don't feel a thing now. So one or both, you know, one.
Good.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a great idea.
It just came to me in a flash because about a year ago, my husband got stung by a bee, and I don't know how we remembered that or who told us, but the onion worked. I remember right away.
Right. And I'm sitting here smelling this onion.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it hopefully takes the swelling down too.
There is no swelling. I just looked at it a second ago. There is absolutely no swelling, and it started swelling immediately.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, that works.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. I'm so glad. Wow. Well, anybody else have anything they want to share? We're coming down to the wire here.
One thing about the 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on land, unlike the fool who just, you know, it's like this, we need to test in this card, needing to test the water before jumping headfirst into an unknown circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah.
While the fool just.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There. Oh, that's a very good contrast. You're right. That's one of my favorite details of the card and the Rider Waite is the foot in the water and the foot on the land. That's why I think people dream so often about beaches, because there's that bringing together of the two. Even if I'm somebody who's never been to a beach or hates the beach or doesn't like to go to the beach or whatever, that people will still dream about it. Yeah. So it's the bringing together of those two seeming opposites. So I pulled out.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can go after.
I was just going to say, when Judy was talking about that, it made me think about this reference in this book, and I don't know if you can see because it's really tiny. There's 4 yellow triangles on his or her chest.
Yes.
They evoke the 4 centers of the human being: intellectual, emotional, sexual, and corporal.
Wow.
They do not intercommunicate but are juxtaposed, each with its own law. But we see a yellow circle above, the symbol of perfection, in which a triangle has been carved that will permit each element to fit into it perfectly. This is the 5th element, the essential being in us that communicates with each of the 4 centers, allowing harmony to be established in the human being. So
that's like the transcendent function again. That's great.
Yeah. So anyway.
So Heather, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to just get some advice from you around dream work and this temperance theme. I mean, I'm just blown away by when we work dreams in the groups or at the retreats, how deep you can go and how fascinating it is, especially when you get everybody else's version of the dream. But how do you have any suggestions? Because I feel like I feel fortunate that my dreams are so detailed and sometimes very long, and sometimes I've learned to like catch it like a slippery fish when I wake up. I don't always remember them, but sometimes, I mean, literally, if I were to write everything down that I remember, it would take me over an hour. And I have other things I need to do to pay our mortgage and all that kind of thing. And so I don't know, do you have any suggestions for those of us who are sort of still on the learning curve of the whole integration piece you're saying? I mean, I feel like it's very special and important part of my life already, but it's hard to know when to take the time to really sort of shove something else aside and be like, I got to write down this dream for an hour, or, you know.
Wow, that's a really good question. And boy, I'm very familiar with your dreams, Heather. You have wonderfully detailed dreams, that's fantastic. I mean, because to have that kind of level of recall is really just a gift. How do I, as imagining myself as Heather, how do I deal with this enormous amount of material? If it were me, because one of the things I know, as Billie, doing this for as many years as I have, I get frustrated because I know I'm not going to be able to work on every dream that I remember. So I would maybe do a short version of some of them, and if there's one that's really particularly energized, has an emotional charge to it that really sticks with me, then write that one out in detail. But I wouldn't throw away the other ones so much. I would maybe just do more of an outline of it. In the end, here we got a couple of hands that went up, so you have some other suggestions.
I agree. I'll interject one thing before someone else goes. It's what's coming to mind now is maybe me setting apart a time once a week or once a month that's just on my calendar to look back at the abbreviated versions, and when they're really fresh in my mind from the week or the month, to then be like, okay, which one am I going to flesh out more?
And a voice recorder is always helpful. I mean, a voice recorder is always helpful because I don't have to take the time to really, I can just, as I'm preparing breakfast or making tea or whatever, have it set to just record what I remember, and then take, the bits and pieces that I want. So Elizabeth, you had a suggestion too?
Yeah, I remember Jeremy saying that dreams are often redundant. So if it's a really, really long dream, it may have the same theme in 3 or 4 different ways. So if I can't write down the whole dream, even a portion might give you the flavor of what it's trying to tell you.
Yeah, that's very good, Elizabeth. Because you used to describe it like a hologram, like you can pull off one corner of it and look through it and still see the same image. So that's one that, because a lot of times, as Elizabeth says, a lot of times the dream is telling me the same thing over and over again, but with different symbols and different metaphors.
I like that the portion can give the flavor, and in the hour 50 minutes to hour long period that we usually take to work a dream, I think sometimes it's just too much material. I like the idea of, I have done that before where I've had more written out and I choose a portion of it that feels like it has the most flavor.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up, Elizabeth. Thank you.
And I do best to remember a dream when I wake up enough to think about the dream and go, okay, and give it a 2-word or more phrase. And I can remember the phrase. So I wake up and then I think, oh, that phrase, and then the dream comes back. So maybe just having a phrase like that would help.
That's
get the whole dream.
That's an excellent suggestion too, because that was another way that Jeremy trained us, was to use like a newspaper headline for the dream, like instead of the car, but the car on the mountain I'm driving over the rocks and I lose my wallet, that kind of thing. Like make sure to include as much of the action in the title as possible, or as Becky says, whatever phrase comes out of it, that helps to recall the rest of the dream.
Whatever it is.
What's that, Becky?
I said a catastrophe on the mountain.
Right, catastrophe on the mountain.
I'll remember.
Yeah. And I lose my dog, and I lose my all right. So by the way, I wanted to share this card for everybody for the image. since we're closing up here pretty soon, this is the card I was just talking about, trust. That's the one that I pulled before the 2008. I really thought that that retreat was not going to go forward, not compounded by the election and the, you know, the recession that we all experienced in 2008. But we had a wonderful retreat. It was at an odd place that happened to be haunted, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, this is the card. So I wanted to give all of you that image, because I think that we're in that place right now where we don't know where we're going. We don't know how this is all going to end. But we got to trust best we can.
Yeah.
So Patti, did you want to say something about your upcoming work and some in your books? You have so many books. So many books.
Not really. The course Going Not Out's on my website. It's free. I'm just taking naps, Billie.
Yeah.
I don't know where I am right now, but
yeah.
This is great. I love doing this with you and love everyone's insights, and it's super cool to talk about how the tarot's showing up in these times that we're in, unprecedented times. So
yeah, and we got to think about, and what I keep referring to in my mind is that, you know, what other generations have been through. You know, there was the pandemic in 1918, and you know, in Patti, you were mentioning that your mother was like 4 years old or something, right, when that was happening. So there's some kind of collective grief that we still carry from that, and the fact that, you know, somehow everyone pulled through and survived. And you know, the Great Depression, I mean, World War II, all of the things that have happened, that we've all been through collectively. And how is it now that, you know, what is this generation going to leave everyone with? How do we relate to it all? I think it's a little, I get particularly frustrated with this whole thing about, I'm not going to wear a mask. It's all about my freedom. Yeah. I want to just smack those people, but you know, because it's all about safety. And it's like, you know, what if there was poison, if there was an area that had, you know, some toxic gas had been released, and the National Guard came along and said, here, we're providing with masks to protect you. Would I say, no, I don't want to wear a mask because it's going to interfere with my freedom? You know, that's how ridiculous that all seems to me. Yeah. But so there's, that makes me sad, because I think we could be cutting this shorter if more people were more safe.
It's a failure of social responsibility. I always think one of the challenges that the United States faces with its strong belief in individuality, individual freedom, is to create healthy community, and
nice slip though.
And social responsibility.
Community immunity.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the curses of this particular country. It's just this like overboard thing about individual. You know, I have to be an individual, and you know, it's like, hey, well, you know, there's other people involved here. So be an individual, but be safe. So anyway, thank you all for coming today. And as you know, I run 2 dream groups. An evening group and an afternoon group. The afternoon group has been very popular lately, so if you are interested in signing up for that on the 27th, I think already there's only a couple of spots left, but there's lots of spots left on the evening group on August 18th, and that meets from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time. So anyway, like I said, thank you. You always go to my website, wakeuptoyourdreams.com. Oh, and I'm going to be participating in an online retreat in mid-October. That's going to be sponsored by Serena Baptista, who's a local medium here in Colorado. Really, really wonderful person. And it's going to be a collection of people with presenting different modalities. And it's called the Lighthouse Retreat. That's happening October 10th and 11th. I don't know which day I'm going to be presenting at, but I'll be talking about universal dream symbols. And I know the other people, so they haven't set up the website completely yet, but that's going to be happening. So I'll send you more when I have more information.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Good to connect to everybody.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Trust.
That's a good one.
Bye-bye.